motivating and empowering women. Emphasizing knowledge of power to create, nurture, and transform lives to come. It's definitely going to be a great time in the Ladies Lounge tonight with your host, Kathy B. To advertise on Ladies Lounge, contact Kathy B at kathyb@sourceradionetwork.com. Now, here's your host, Kathy B.
Source Nation, good evening and welcome to the Ladies Lounge. I am your host, Kathy B. We have about 2 hours before we lose the live feed. Telephone number to reach us tonight is 619-924-0933. Again, 619-924-0933. Well, you guys know that we've already launched the Love Zone Book Club. That's right. If you will, please, I want you guys to go over to Facebook, join the Love Zone Book Club page, and definitely begin to read all the articles that we have placed there, because you know on that particular platform we are striving for longevity and success in our relationships. And, of course, not only being a part of the page, but I need you guys to tune into the show because we're doing some wonderful and amazing things there. Myself, as well as Dr. D. Yvonne Young, we're helping you guys with your relationships. So anything that you're dealing with, if it's with infidelity or communication, anything of the sort, we definitely touch on Love Zone Monday. So I need you all to be in support and definitely tune in every single Monday at 7 p.m. for Love Zone Mondays. Well, you guys, I'm telling you, tonight's show is going to be an amazing one. But before I let you guys know who I have in the studio and what we're going to be speaking on, I have some amazing sponsors that I need to thank. And they are Zulina Health, Wellness, and Fitness, Paper to Film Productions, Revolution Meals, and Renovations. Well, you all know that I have been doing a wonderful book series with some amazing women throughout the years, and I've had the opportunity to bring back another collaborative work of authors, beautiful women that have come together to share their amazing stories and journeys with us. The brand new book, Women Inspiring Nations, is a book where there's, I believe, 23 women that have come together to talk about some amazing things within their lives and within their relationships that they're going to share with us, Source Nation and Ladies in the Lounge. This book is designed to feature women who are using their gifts for the greater good, taking their gifts beyond the boundaries of their own zip code and being intentional about inspiring others by sharing their story, their lessons, and their knowledge. Now, each contributing author will share their story about how they discovered their unique gift of calling in spite of life distractions, what challenges they may face along the way, and they're beginning to walk within their greatness. Now, how they found the drive to focus and to commit to process the most pivotal lessons they've learned, what fears they had to face, and how they're now beginning to use their gifts to impact and inspire others. I love that. And I have a beautiful young lady that's coming in the studio with me that will be sharing her story also. So you definitely have to stay tuned here the next few Fridays where we're going to have some beautiful women in the studio. But the next person that you will hear in the studio with me will be Miss Torri Ball. So what we're going to do, Source Nation, is we're going to take a quick break, and on the other side, Torri will be here in the studio with me.
We'll be back, Source Radio Network, after this commercial break.
Source Radio Network is just one of the many platforms that is used to fulfill dreams of our listeners. and create a purpose that will impact the lives of our communities, cities, and the world. It is often said that great things will happen when a group of driven people work together to accomplish one goal. We're giving people the opportunity to have a voice, translate words that haven't been heard, and paint pictures that no one has seen. Source Radio Network is fueling your life's purpose. How can you listen? www.blogtalkradio.com/Source Radio.
Welcome back, Source Nation. Now here's your host, Kathy B.
Welcome back, Source Nation. Welcome back. You're listening live right here on the Ladies Lounge. We have about an hour and 59 minutes before we leave the live feed. Telephone number to reach us tonight is 619-924-0933. Again, 619-924-0933. Well, if you've been listening, you know that I've had the opportunity to speak with some amazing women. And I tell you, we are going to be doing a wonderful book entitled Women Inspiring Nations. A group of women have come together to tell us about their life's journeys, whether it's with relationships, with family, with business, motivation, inspiration. They are doing it all. And I am excited to be bringing this next young lady in the studio with me. I'm going to be speaking with Miss Torri Ball. I do believe that Torri here in the studio with me. Hello and welcome to the Ladies Lounge. How are you this evening?
I'm doing wonderful. Thank you for having me.
Awesome. Well, of course, I have not given your bio justice, and I tell you why. We've had the opportunity really to begin to share you with the ladies in the lounge as well as Source Nation. But if you will, please, if you could take a moment just to introduce yourself, that would be great, and we'll jump into the conversation from there.
Okay. My name is Torri, and I am a domestic violence survivor. My story is tailored around surviving domestic violence at an early age. Along with being a survivor, I'm also a master's level social worker as well as a life coach, and I'm also a blogger and a writer. This is a third book that I'm involved in with a group of women to discuss and to be able to heal other women to get past certain situations in life. Along with that, my daytime job is being a federal parole officer working with women for 7 years. I'm also a wife and a mother of 3 and a grandmom of 1 grandson. So this life journey has really been a true blessing to be able to tell my story and speak my truth to help other women. And I want to also thank you again for having me on your show.
You're welcome. Thank you so much. So, Torri, talk to us a little bit in reference to your collaboration in the book and what you've been able to contribute. Tell us a little bit about your story.
My story, I wrote about this story, and I chose domestic violence because I believe that I'm an advocate for women that have been in that situation, working with women for 7 years that are coming out the Bureau of Prisons or either on probation. I come into contact with women on a daily basis, and I also serve on a domestic violence board for a small nonprofit. So I thought it would be befitting for me to speak about being a survivor and what it takes to heal yourself after you've experienced the trauma and being in a domestic violence situation. Not always living as a victim, but living as a survivor, but it takes a while for you to get back to the place where you feel comfortable and you're able to love yourself. So I wanted to give a piece of myself to pour into other women to know that you've been in a domestic violence situation. Mm-hmm. You're taking the time to heal, and that it's okay that you're taking the time to love yourself. You're taking the time to heal yourself, and you're also taking the time to find out and transform who you are with prayer, with God, and spending your time with journaling and doing things that's going to help you heal through everything that you've been through, and knowing that it's okay to take your time and figure out who you are after you've experienced trauma.
That's powerful. You know, as I am listening to you, and all the conversations that I've had with the women, part of the great collaboration of Women Inspiring Nations, the one thing that we have all spoke on and we have agreed that when we are coming out of a situation and we are in the area of healing, there are a couple of things that we go through. We go through the point of, okay, blaming ourselves, whatever the situation may be or whatever the problem is, from, okay, owning to what part did I play, and then beginning to transition and renovate ourselves. What are your thoughts about that? And are those the equal steps that you had to take and the women that you're sharing your journey with? What are your thoughts on that?
I did have some of those same things that you just spoke about. You start blaming yourself. You start thinking about, did I cause this? After so much of doing some self-reflection and going and talking to, I actually had to talk to a therapist, and I also used my friends as sounding board, knowing what friends to trust and also seeking professional help. You use those persons as a sounding board, and when I started to figure out and realize that it was not myself that caused the situation and that person had the problem, that's when I start coming out of victimizing myself, because once you start thinking that you're blaming yourself, you're basically re-victimizing yourself. So I had to do a lot of self-discovery while healing at the same time. That's when I started developing and transitioning into loving myself more, because my situation happened in my early to mid-20s. So now I'm 41. I know what it looks like to be able to struggle to go through situations and healing yourself. What I normally tell women that I work with, when they go through a domestic violence situation, that it's not their fault, and knowing that they can do so much better by themselves and not live in a situation like that. Transitions are very difficult when you have experienced being in a domestic violence situation. So that's why it's always important to practice self-care, to start saying daily affirmations, and to pour into yourself when you're going through something like that. And there are women who don't know where to start. So that's when you have a therapist or a professional to help you get there, or either a friend that you trust that you, I would say, not admire, but that is very positive in your life and that can help you get through that.
I love that. I love that. The one thing that you did say that I find very hard, especially in the African-American community, is if we're going through something and we're wanting to talk about it, sometimes we fail to seek the help. We fail to seek the professional help because we feel if we were to talk about it, if we were to share it, there may be some form of judgment coming behind it. Even from a professional standpoint, people can look at it like that. What are your thoughts about that? And do you find it very beneficial, especially if you're on the track of wanting to heal, seeking that help? What are your thoughts?
Before I became educated in the social work field, I never thought about therapy because I'm like, I'm not doing that. And in the black community, we always stereotype, oh, if you're going to seek professional help, you must be crazy. After being educated on what therapy was and who does the therapizing, it might not be a psychiatrist, it might not be a psychologist. You would normally seek a social worker that will assist you. It's like talking to a girlfriend and you just sitting on the couch or sitting in a chair and you're just talking to a girlfriend, but knowing that the conversation that you have with this professional would not leave the four walls when you're talking to them. Mm-hmm. That when you're discussing what you're feeling and what you're going through, you know that it's confidential at the end of the day and that you have a strong soundboard that will help you get through it. As you get older and you change your thought process and you start thinking, maybe I need to talk to someone, it's very therapeutic. For me, what I normally add to healing process is also journaling. when you put the words on paper, and I'm pretty sure all the women in the book can attest to this if they do journal, is that when you put the words to paper, it's also therapeutic because you're getting them out and putting on paper so that your words can flow out of your body, flow out of your mind, and you can have a restful and peaceful sleep at night. So I did learn some of that at a very early age, just not by going to therapy, because I started going to therapy after the incident of domestic violence and getting my whole being together, but I always was a natural writer when I was younger. So with coupling therapy and also journaling, it was very healing and therapeutic for me. Also, as going to school for social work, they also tell us if we can't help our clients or our patients, we wouldn't know what it feels like. So they also suggest that the social worker also sit in the place of the client. So listening to the professors tell us that was an eye-opener experience as well.
I love that. You know, you mentioned something that I do as well, and I found it to be very therapeutic. Just as you said, when I was going through my divorce, I journal a lot. And you're right. Writing your words down can help you. Not only that, Torri, I felt I could see my area of growth.
Yes.
And I want to talk about that. I want to talk about that in reference to, especially if you're coming out of a domestic situation. And I will say I have not been in a domestic relationship to where there was some form of abuse, but I felt somewhat abused when I found out the infidelity was breaking up my marriage. I felt because my husband could not communicate with me and tell me why he was unhappy and he had to seek happiness out of the home, to me I felt like that was a form of abuse. And I had to write in my journal what I just stated to you, but not only that, in my journal I talked about how did I get there? What was my role in all of this? Because I was not going to blame him. So with that being said, to me, I felt like journaling is a part of growth because you get to see where you started, where you're going, and where you're going to be. What are your thoughts about that, and is that accurate to a degree?
That is actually accurate because I can look at some of my past journals of when I was writing in the past, and I have a journal from my early 20s, like 1920, and I went through and I started looking at it and reading it and understanding the pen markings bleed through the paper, but it was still legible where I could read it, and I was like, oh my goodness, I've grown so much, because you look at what you were writing back in the past and you look now to what you're writing, it is very transformational. It is also, it does show growth because it goes through the steps of showing at the age that you started writing certain things and what you were writing about, what you were talking about, the different subjects that you most likely wrote about. And I always say that artists, when life is chaotic around them, they create the best content. So when you're journaling and you're going through life stressors or it's very chaotic, that's when your journaling is like the best. And you see your emotions just coming out on paper, and it actually has been transformational just to read from my 20s up into my early 40s, just seeing the writing and how I've grown as a woman into my own self, and you see the self-love growing when there was no self-love at the beginning.
I love that, and I'm so glad that you mentioned that because I want to talk about self-love. I think that is just so hard for us, especially if we come through a situation where we are traumatized to move on. If you will, please share with the ladies what self-love means to you and why is it so important for us to do that when we are reinventing ourselves and transitioning.
A self-love to me, at the beginning, like you can see the stages of a woman not having no love at all for herself and low standards to a woman growing into herself and having standards and expectations of what she sees in herself, not expectations of someone else, because when you putting your expectations and trust in someone else is always going to be a disappointment. So you want to have it within yourself. Self-love as you grow and get older, I'm just personally speaking about me as a woman, it shown me who I was. It also shown me who I've become, and it taught me to understand that, yes, you are this strong woman that everybody look up to. At the end of the day, there are some days where I don't feel that way, but I always have my girlfriends that I call my quarters that tell me you're enough, you're okay, stop being critical of yourself, it's going to be okay. So we do fall into those moments when we're highly critical of ourselves, so it's more like you need to give yourself a chance. But self-love is not always about the affirmations, because you can do affirmations and you still don't believe them. But if you're doing affirmations and you believe them, you receive them, and you're walking in those affirmations and walking in your faith, like faith is a big thing to me. So if I'm doing affirmations and walking in faith along with them, you can conquer anything. Self-love is also participating in self-care, where you're taking care of yourself. You're not pouring into everyone and can't pour into yourself. And understanding that women who are moms or aunts or the caregivers, we pour so much into everyone that we don't have enough for ourselves. So that's also a part of self-love, when you are pouring into yourself and taking the time to rest, taking the time to take care of yourself, learning what it's like to, after experiencing trauma, that it's okay to be able to have things that you know you deserve. We deserve a lot, and it takes time to relearn things that you deserve, but every woman deserves to pour into herself and give into herself and not feel guilty or ashamed that she did that. That's what self-love to me is more like, and just basically having some values and morals and standards that you can show someone how to treat you. Because if you constantly showing people that you're not enough, they're going to treat you as such. And knowing that you are enough and that people are not going to step over you, that's how you show self-love and show people how to treat you.
I love that. Source Nation and the ladies in the lounge, we are speaking with Torri Ball. She is part of the collaboration of Women Inspiring Nations, and tonight's conversation, she's sharing an amazing journey with this. Now, you said some great things not too long ago in our conversation, and one thing that I want to add on with the self-love part and being able to work along with that, I believe you have to forgive also.
Yes.
You have to forgive yourself for whatever it is. Forgive yourself. And that's one of the things I was saying to the young lady prior to you, to Nova, when I said to her, I said, I've been married twice, and my second marriage ended in divorce based upon infidelity. And I remember when my husband at the time came to me and asked me if I could ever forgive him, and would I ever be mad at him, or would I be mad at him for a long time based off of what he had done. And I said to him, I said, no, because I have forgiven you when I heard about it. Mm-hmm. And it knocked him completely off his feet. He was like, what? I was like, I forgave you. In order for me to move on and accept what God has for me, I can't hold on to that. I can't hold on to the pain. I can't hold on to the madness of the fact that you ruined our family. Couldn't do that. But the other caveat to that was I had to asked myself some important questions. And one important question was, what part did you play? What part did you play? And that's hard for people to do. So what are your thoughts about that when you literally have to look at yourself in the mirror and begin to ask those hard questions? Because I find that when you can ask yourself those hard questions, you're growing also. You're positioning yourself for growth. What are your thoughts about that?
I wanted to go to the forgiveness piece because I tell people all the time, when you are forgiving the person that caused you the most pain, or you're forgiving your attacker, or you're forgiving your abuser, the forgiveness is not for them. Mm-hmm. The forgiveness is for you to let go and move on and let God handle the whole situation. If you don't forgive, you're blocking every blessing that God has for you. Mm-hmm. And when you forgive, you're releasing the hurt. Now, I'm not saying that, you're not going to feel the pain for a while, or you're not going to forgive the pain for a long time, because with my situation, also at that time we were engaged and we were planning a wedding, and then we found out that, he was dealing with a young lady at the same time all this was going on. Being very young, you don't think about forgiveness, you don't think about anything else, but as you grow over time and start learning to love yourself and get involved in your faith, whatever you believe in, the higher power, whatever you believe in, that's when you start seeing the growth, as you said, that you start seeing the growth, and you say, you know what, at this point in time, because I am now healing myself and I'm in a better place, I'm going to forgive this person because of myself. It's not that you're healing the person for them. You're healing it so you can be able to let go of all the pain, all the damage. And you think about those things. You think about, what part did I play in it? And when you start playing it over in your head, you know at that time, okay, before I jump into another relationship, because when I was going through that relationship, I didn't jump into another relationship, which was a great thing for me because it took time for me to basically heal, because I didn't want to take excessive baggage to another relationship. So if I took this baggage to another relationship, I'm damaging that relationship. I'm damaging that partner that I have. I don't want it to experience the same thing over. So when I got ready to move on and I met someone, I would explain to them, the situation and allow them to make the decision whether or not they wanted to be there. Because out of the relationship, we had produced a child. So, of course, the child was still there, so we still had to have ties because of her. So in order for me to be able to move on, I also had to be smart about it and also have someone there to support me. So my basis of when someone hurts me, I forgive them because I'm letting go of that, and the forgiveness is for me, not for them. That years later, I would tell him, I forgave you for everything you did. You don't have to keep apologizing for it.
Yeah. And I want to add something, because I actually had someone talk to me about this, Torri, a couple of days ago. When we're in the act of forgiveness, is it okay to forget, or do we need to remember? What are your thoughts about that?
I don't forget. You can forget stuff like that, but I don't forget things like that, because if you remember those things, those are a memory that you're going to have. I'm not saying that, I'm going to jump back into a relationship with this person that abused me. Mm-hmm. When you've experienced some trauma, of course you're going to remember some things you just want to get out your head, like the beatings or even being thrown down a flight of steps. So it's like you still remember those things, but it's not like you're remembering to hurt that person or to hurt their feelings. It's more or less the not great memories. I don't want to make it seem like, they're memories that will last forever, but it makes me stronger to know that I overcame that. With my abuser, the first time that I was able to be around him is when my grandson was born. At that time, I knew I was over it. Mm-hmm. And the most recent contact with him was last night when we were discussing our daughter, because she's 21 and our grandson will be 2. I knew I was over it. I could no longer harp about it. I could no longer cry about it. I could tolerate talking to him in reference to that. I had forgot about it and moved on. So when you can get to a point where you can forgive someone, forget it, and move on and not cry over it, not feel bad about it, you know God is in the mix of everything.
Yes, I love that. And that's what I was getting ready to say, because, you know, when people found out that my husband and I had separated and divorced, and I was strong enough to say the infidelity was the demise of the marriage, and looking back 10 years later, you would look at he and I like, okay, you mean to tell me y'all were married, y'all divorced? Because we're like the best of friends now.
Right.
You know? And I was telling you, when the person asked me, you know, can you forget? Do you forget? How do you get past that point? And this is the way that I answered that question. I said, you know what? I'm not going to forget, but I choose to be wiser.
Right.
I choose to be wiser, because in my next relationship, the one thing that he and I did not have was we didn't know how to communicate, okay? So in my next relationship, I'm going to make sure that communication becomes key and remains key. And when I feel like something is going on and I'm uneasy with it, he's uneasy with it, we should be comfortable enough to begin to talk about it. So
right, exactly.
I think, you know, once you are like that, then it's okay. So I certainly understand what you're saying, you know, because he and I, we can laugh and we can talk about, you know, what happened 10 years ago. I mean, we're at the point now where I know he's dating again, and he knows that I have someone special in my life. We can talk about that now.
And that's always a good thing, because it shows maturity, it shows growth. And like you said, I like the word that you used, that it made you wiser. And I think we as women, and also probably men too, but as women, I believe that you can always learn from anything that has failed, because you take it as a learning lesson of what you can do the next time so it would not happen again. Not saying that everybody's perfect, but everybody in the world is human, and we're all imperfect trying to make a situation perfect. So it's more or less you're learning from a failure and going into something to make it 10 times better than what your last experience was. And me being married now, I had to inform my husband of some things in reference to that one relationship, because, of course, we have a daughter out of that relationship. So, of course, he had to be in contact with him. So when he found out of those things, he said, okay, now I understand certain things that has happened. So it actually, a story will actually help someone else out. It's the knowledge and the basis behind different things and being wise about situations.
Now let me ask you, now that you have been able to share your story with others, what are some of the reactions you're receiving? Are you finding that people are able to be just as transparent as you are in reference to what has taken place in their lives, and are they ready to accept the area of growth once they've gone beyond the pain? What are your thoughts on that?
When I first wrote about my story in the 3 books back, when I first brought it to light, the person I think that was mostly shocked about it was my mother. She said, I didn't realize all of this was going on. She knew of certain things, but she didn't know of a lot of things that happened. So she was very shocked about it. My brother read it, and he was very upset about it. He was like, well, when all this happened, I was like, you were away in the service. And he's my younger brother, so when they read the story, they're like, okay, so they understood why the relationship between my abuser and I were very strained. I would never talk to him. I wouldn't talk to him in reference to certain things. I would have a person support me into going with me to drop my daughter off. So the things that I put in place to help me out, they understood them when I wrote about it. Other women that have gone through similar situations, they feel a sigh of relief because they felt as though they were the only ones that went through it. So when they find out someone else has gone through it, they are very open about it. And they want to know, well, how do you get over this? Or they want to know, well, how do you learn to forgive someone when they've done all this to you? So it opens up a conversation about domestic violence. And I think we need to have more conversations about domestic violence and more conversations about how to heal women to be better for themselves and their kids if they do have children. We need to have more open conversations about how to prevent it.
Yes, we do. I love that. And I thank you, Torri, for taking that step and extending the help, because I truly believe that there should be more areas of conversations taking place and definitely solutions and programs to help all those involved so they can then transition, just as we talked about, be able to move on and grow and go on to do greater things. So thank you so much. As we are wrapping up our conversation, tonight, we always like to leave either with some encouraging word or maybe some tips and advice that we have not shared in tonight's conversation. If you wish to contribute, I would love for you to do so at this time.
I would say that every woman is enough, that you are enough to believe in yourself. Regardless of what someone feels or what they say, that you are enough. God created you to be exactly who you are. He created you for a purpose. He created us in his image, so he created us to do work and serve other people as well as ourselves. But I just want to let the women know that they are enough.
Yes, I love it. And if you will, please, Torri, tell us where we could find you and continue to support you in your efforts. Where can we go?
You can find me. I'm actually on Instagram and Facebook. Facebook is Torri Rogers Ball. My personal Instagram is Torri Inspires Blog, because I also write for a blog site for Women by Choice. I also have my life coaching services, which is elitelifecoach.org, which is the website. And I'm also on Twitter, Torri Inspires Blog as well. That's my personal Twitter page.
Awesome. Well, Torri, again, thank you so much for coming in tonight and sharing your journey with us. We definitely wish you a lot of success with the book and all of your endeavors to come. Thank you so much.
Thank you, and you're welcome.
Have a great evening.
You too.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Well, Source Nation, you heard it right there from Ms. Torri Rogers Ball. She has given us some great information. She's part of the brand new collaboration of authors for Women Inspiring Nations. What I love most about my conversation with Torri was the fact that, we talked about coming from an area of pain and being able to grow from that. She mentioned something that was so very important, especially if we are dealing with pain or if we're dealing with a relationship that has ended. In order for us to grow and in order for us to be an acceptance of loving someone else, we first must love ourselves. Ladies, this is very crucial, especially if we're looking at entering into any type of relationship. You want to make sure that you are putting your best foot forward. And how do you do that? Is recognizing who you are and loving you for you, because no one can take that away from you. No one can change that about you. The only person that truly can change it is you. But choose to change for the better. For more information and more about Torri, you can go out to CaPP Source Radio Network as well as our main station page, Source Radio Network. The book that we are speaking from, and I'm so glad that these young ladies are coming into the studio to share with us, is Women Inspiring Nations. Source Nation, let me tell you, you do not want to miss this because we have 19 fabulous, dynamic, amazing women sharing their personal journeys with us. So you definitely have to tune in. Guys, thank you so much for being here. We look forward to having you back again next week for the Ladies Lounge. Be blessed.